According to a report in Deadline, actor Joaquin Phoenix and director M. Night Shyamalan are set to team up for their third feature film together. The story claims that the duo are preparing to work on a new film for Blumhouse, which also produced Shyamalan's upcoming horror film The Visit and is set to be budgeted under $10 million. As you may remember, Phoenix and Shyamalan previously worked together on Signs and The Village. Christian, buy or sell Phoenix and Shyamalan working together on a Blumhouse film?
I'm gonna buy it. I am gonna buy it because here's the thing: like when Shyamalan was kind of going on his decline, there were interviews that he was having, and he seemed kind of cocky. And then there was that thing on Time Magazine, or whatever it was, like the next Spielberg, and it's like, calm down, man, calm down. And it seemed like the ego was getting big. I had a chance to speak to him at Comic-Con. I've heard more interviews from him. He seems like he's really trying to be creative and get himself back on track. I'm rooting for him. He seems like he's changed and done a 180. Working with Joaquin Phoenix again, who I really enjoy Signs. I didn't enjoy the first time I watched it, but after revisiting it a bunch of times, I dug it. I haven't seen The Visit yet. I'm hoping that it's okay. But working and sitting down with him and Jason Blum, I'm watching them, how they created and how it seems like a good marriage, these two. Mm-hmm. And Jason Blum, the Blumhouse is like the king of making good movies or profitable movies for super low budget. So if you can do that with Joaquin Phoenix, one of the best actors working today, and this is the new road that Shyamalan's going to do, then yeah, it's quality talent working with a guy who has talent. He's just got to get himself back. So I buy it.
You know, it's funny because you talk about the decline, I think, of M. Night Shyamalan really did come from ego. And if this is usually the argument I'll bring up when people say their studio should never interfere with the director. Yes, they should. One of the greatest examples of this is the story of Lady in the Water, which after Battlefield Earth, Highlander 2, and Catwoman, I probably think might be the fourth worst film ever made in Hollywood.
The Four Horsemen of Cinema.
The Four Horsemen of Destruction of Cinema. Lady in the Water is like just that we throw the word garbage around a lot sometimes about bad films. There isn't a word that properly describes how bad Lady in the Water is. You know, it's absolutely brutal. And there's this really famous story about how, you know, M. Night kind of submitted he was still at Disney at the time, and he submitted his screenplay for it. The people at Disney, and there's this really famous story. One of the head execs at Disney had dinner with M. Night and brought up some of her concerns. She's like, you know, you write yourself into the script as a writer who saves the world. You write in that all film critics are evil. All these other little point things make absolutely no sense. And we think you're a really good filmmaker, and we think there's some changes you need to make to the story. And M. Night stormed out of that meeting, vowed to never work with Disney again. Don't you interfere with me. I'm an artist, and all this kind of stuff. And then he went on, produced that movie under another shingle, and we got one of the worst films in history. But when they announced that Shyamalan was going to be doing his movie as I just been calling him the Hammer. I don't mean that in a derogatory way. He's the Hammer, man. When the Shyamalan was going to be doing The Visit with Blumhouse, I remember the movie talk we talked about that story. I was excited for it because I remember thinking, I think this is exactly what M. Night needs, because M. Night is not a one-hit wonder. A lot of us think of him in terms we just think, oh, he did Sixth Sense. No, he did about 3 or 4 really solid movies, and then kind of went way off the cliff. I thought getting low budget under a guy like Jason Blum, who keeps a pretty firm hand over the films that they produce because he wraps up all of his money in these little low budget things, this could be a really good fit. We're hearing pretty decent things about The Visit. Having him now, like you were saying, team up again with probably one of the top 5 or 6 best working actors in Hollywood today, that can't be anything but good. So yeah, for me, it's a buy.
I mean, as far as movies go, sometimes the sports fan in me bleeds over there where I would just defend something to the death even when I shouldn't. And Shyamalan's always been one of those guys to me where I'm like, I just think that guy has potential in him still. And maybe that's the twist in his career is that he made a lot of bad movies, and he made a lot of mistakes as far as how to handle making films and the cinematic process working with studios. But this seems like the right studio, Blumhouse does, to make a comeback pitch with. The Visit, I'm looking forward to it. Him working with Joaquin Phoenix is the most intriguing thing about this to me. I don't care what studio you're doing with. If it's a small budget production and it's Shyamalan doing good Shyamalan things, and Joaquin Phoenix, who always commits, regardless of how the movie is, whether it's great like Signs or it's atrocious like The Village, that guy comes to play ball every single time. I am excited about this now. And now I'm even more excited about The Visit, because if they're going to do another project with Shyamalan Shyamalan, regardless of how much money it costs, they have to have some sort of faith in the visit.
I was going to say the same thing. Great point. Yeah, like that's got to give us some hope that if Bloom is all of a sudden turning around and saying, you know what? I liked this experience so much. I want to do another one with
They
you.
had a great rapport, the two of them. They really did. And you heard, I was impressed because they both sat down with one another, and the way that they described working with one another. They have they have a mutual respect for each other. So it seemed, and they had finished the movie. It was coming out. They're promoting the visit, obviously, and it didn't seem fabricated. Like they were just trying to sell a relationship. Oh yeah, I like this guy. He's great. And then they go up in their separate ways. They were hanging out together, partying together. So even if the movie turns out to be okay, obviously they want to work together again and feel like they can do some magic.
If it's okay, it's a major step in the right direction
Right.
for M. Night's career.
Right.